The setup for class is completely different to that of a talk or a lecture. Firstly, the audience is generally smaller. Secondly, the room is much smaller and the speaker is closer to the audience. This brings the advantage of greater closeness to the audience and is more favourable to interactions. Presenting a lesson to a class is usually less stressful than giving a presentation to an audience, but on the other hand, can be much more tiring, as it is usually longer and can be quite repetitive, especially if you're giving back-to-back lessons. It is quite important to keep your energy levels up, as if you begin to tire, your class will tire with you, and your message will be lost. A good night's sleep and a healthy diet is the best recommendation. One of the first things you need to do is create a certain link or interaction with your students. In order to create this interaction, the best piece of advice is to try your best to memorize your students' names. If you're in a class of 30 students, that can be a little bit more challenging, but by asking them to place a name card in front of them, it could help. By memorizing their names, it helps you personalize your interaction with the students. They will feel special, and it will be easier to get their attention when asking a question or having them interact with another student. Another important factor before starting a class is the organization of the class itself. Arriving at least 15 minutes before will allow you to review your notes, but also to rearrange the classroom as you see fit. You might choose a U-shape or a more traditional row format. You could even try to create islands of tables. Depending on the style of class you are giving, it can promote interaction between the students themselves. Another common question is, how and where should I stand when giving a class? Traditionally, people sit behind their desk and give their class. This can seem a little old-fashioned, and the desk often cuts off the student and teacher. I suggest standing up in front of the desk or slightly leaning your back against the desk, like so, depending on the image you want to portray. Concerning your walking movements, avoid walking back and forth across the room and looking at the floor or at one specific student. Move every time you transition into a new theme or subject that merits crossing the room. When moving, look at the student in the direction that you are taking. Use them as your anchor point and walk, and look at them like so. Remember to not walk for walking's sake. Anchor yourself at your point A, and when necessary, move to point B using the advice that we have previously seen. As we saw in previous chapters, unexpected circumstances can arise. Laptops and smartphones are unavoidable or sometimes necessary for the students. The disadvantage for the speaker is that sometimes you can find your students' attention going elsewhere, and that can really put you off. It is a bit of a tough issue, but the best recommendation is to begin the lesson by asking everybody to close their laptops and put their phones away. If, however, your class requires students to take notes, I recommend alternating sections of the class where notes can be taken and others where laptops must be closed. Another way of keeping your audience's attention is to regularly ask various students questions. It allows everybody to sit a little bit on the edge of their seat, anticipating that they might be asked the following question. Nobody wants to be shown that they weren't listening. In all cases, it is important to set some ground rules before beginning. Mobile should be silenced and put away, and if an urgent call needs to be made, then they can excuse themselves and leave the room. It is important that the class is a space that is dedicated to the work that is being done that day. Remember too that in order to grab your audience's attention and keep it, you need to use the method of storytelling that we spoke about in previous chapters. It is essential to keep your presentation on track. Remember to add anecdotes again and again, and soon you'll soon notice that you really maintain your audience's attention and get them on your side. In the next chapter, we'll be taking a look at another situation, delivering a presentation to camera.